tell me a little bit. Just go back. Just talk about your career with the city of Rocky Mount. I mean, dang, Peter. I mean, you've been here since I don't know. They brought the first load of bricks, didn't you? I mean,
Right. Yeah. Well, let's see. I started with the city in 1971. I had graduated college in Maine, and then came to the graduate school at Chapel Hill for an MPA, public administration degree. And then from there came to Rocky Mount for what I thought would be a short period of time. My plan was to go back to northern New England, where I'm from. And but I just ended up staying here. I started with the city 1971. The city had just completed the reservoir. That week I started, we were filling it with water. And the reservoir had, the cost of the reservoir had impacted the city's finances.
Sure.
So I hadn't been here very long, and then there was some turnover in the city. The city manager had left. The finance director had left. The planning director had left.
It feels like today, Peter.
That's right. A reprise.
That's right.
Here we go. And so I had been there not very long, but was sitting in the middle of all of that in the city manager's office. So it's kind of like being pushed off the dock. If you want to learn city government, one way to learn it is in that environment. So that's kind of how it got started.
What did the reservoir cost? I'm just curious.
I think if I remember right, it was somewhere around $4 million or maybe $4.5 million, something like that. Right. With a reservoir and a new water treatment plant involved in that, and some major water transmission lines, a major water line coming from the reservoir out Westmount Drive, coming back into town.
Right, and look how, I mean, we've still got capacity left over from that one move, and we've been able to supply a lot of water to a lot of people. So it was I think, a great move.
It was part of a master plan, really, the construction of the area airport, the reservoir, and imposed a zoning ordinance.
Right.
And some other things that had been done to try to build and prepare for growth. And so that was a major investment in infrastructure. And it paid off in terms of textile industry. The city then was in a position to recruit the textile industry.
Right.
Did that successfully. That resulted in sales of water in the 17, 18 million gallons a day range.
Wow.
Today we sell water 9 million gallons a day. We have 27 million gallons a day of capacity.
Right.
So we have all this infrastructure. We have the reservoir, the dam, 2 water treatment plants, 7 storage tanks above ground, above aerial storage tanks, million gallons in each one. All of that, and transmission lines that go to serve water in Edgecombe County, Nash County, up as far as Whitaker's, Nashville, all around.
Wow.
And but we have all that infrastructure that needs to be supported with really more sales, more water sales.
Right. Well, we're going to get there. I mean, I know that Norris is working hard as he can over the Gateways Partnership. I know you've been on a couple of economic recruitment trips, and I have as well. And this, so there's hope there that we'll be able to sell all of your water before it's over with.
Right. Yeah. Right.
We got a 3x capacity though from what we're using now, which is good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it'll happen. Then we later built the wastewater treatment plant in early 1980s. Put that online, I think, in 1982 or 3 or somewhere right in there.
So the population of Rocky Mount is 1971. I was a little bitty fella. It feels like it was in the 30,000, 31,000 range. So we did accommodate, a 25,000 person growth. Well, actually up to maybe almost 30,000. We were at 58,000 or so once upon a time, and we've declined a little bit in the last decade. But
right, that's right.
But anyway, we're still on the rise. I believe in it. I know it's coming.
Yeah, me too. This has been a city that it's a working town.
That's
we'll call it town, and
always has
been able to adapt and change with make the economy change, and supply the needs of the economy and keep it going. We're not a mountain resort town or a beach town or a military town or a college town or any of that. We're a working town.
We've been logistics since inception, really.
Right.
I mean, between the dam or the waterfall, which created a dam, which created hydroelectric power, and then the railroad came here. And so it's just always been about logistics. And I think it'll continue to be that. So that's a great thing.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, you were part of all these massive projects, which I got to say is just kind of wow. I mean, these are things that really have shaped Rocky Mount to where it is today in terms of the opportunity that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So your first retirement, when was that? Yeah.
Retired in let's see, in at the end of December of 2012.
Okay.
I was 64, but coming up quickly on 65 at that
Right.
time, and so and I did that mainly because I had brought my mother up from Florida. My
Okay.
father had died, and she's living down in Florida alone, and so she was in her upper 80s, and so I thought I needed to bring her closer to
Sure,
family.
of course.
So I did that, and if it had not been for that, I think I would have continued on a couple more, few more
Right.
years.
Well, of course.
Anyway.
Well, you know what? We gave you an opportunity to come back, so that worked out fine.
It worked out. Yeah.
It has worked out well. So thank you again for coming back. Because I mean, it's a big deal to step back in after retirement, and you know, and some of the challenges that we have in front of us. And I think you've done a great job of at least getting us to a place where we can begin to recruit, you know, a manager and also a finance manager. So it feels like we're in 1971 again. I think we're in a little bit better shape economically than maybe in 71. But
yes, we are. Yeah.
But we're in a good spot and should be able to move forward on that.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, so give us a little bit of a update on some of the things going on in the city. I know that trash has been a constant challenge. I know that you've been left with a few challenges that you've had to work through, and trash collection has been one of them because I've heard about it. I cannot imagine how many phone calls you've gotten about it. Yeah. But just kind of give us an update on where we are on all that stuff.
Well, the biggest thing that's taken place has been the construction and the opening of the event center. That is a major, most recent major project, and $45 million project downtown Rocky Mount, and it opened and then shut down because of COVID, and now has reopened again. Many people, I think, in this community think that project is completed because it's there and it's done, but it's not done.
Right.
Because we need more parking, we need storage that goes with it, and we need a business community that's going to support it, and mainly hospitality industry, restaurants, hotel rooms, and things like that will support that. So that's a major thing, and we have not adapted to that yet. I mean, we haven't got our we have to think like we're now a hospitality type community where we never have thought of ourselves as that before. So that's one challenge.
Well, and I'll say this: I've been surprised that there haven't been a number of pop-up shops, restaurants, or watering holes or whatever around the event center. Because when you're bringing in, 8,000 people in the course of a weekend or 10,000 people, depending on what the event is for 3, 4, 5 days, that's a big market that's relatively captive. I mean, I'm just surprised at that. And I don't know why. Maybe folks aren't looking at the opportunity the way I see it. But I think more things are beginning to occur.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think things are beginning to occur. I would have thought that with knowing that thing was getting ready to come online, that there would have been investment people lined up to, acquire or rent property and fit up for restaurants or food sales or watering holes or any and all of that. Right. The Mills is not downtown, but they have been a beneficiary, I think, of that traffic that has been coming for the event center.
Well, and you'll say that that's been a proof of concept too. I mean, the Mill built it. A lot of people have come. They've created an entertainment venue, and I know that it can be replicated in downtown. And you're right. I've been surprised to not see the Mill and the hotels kind of get together and create a shuttle service back and forth just to move people around. Yeah. But again, maybe that'll all evolve in time here.
Yeah, that's part of the adaptation we need to make. I think is to provide the transportation that connects the Mills to downtown and connects the hotels out on Winston Avenue to downtown and other attractions that we have, like the sports complex. There are people out there, for example, playing ball, and parents with their children who could come down to the event center and entertain in the play area that they have in that wing. So there's linkages, but we've got to get our thinking together on that and do some, I think, a better job coordinating all of that. And
we can always improve coordination, always, and advertising and marketing and all of that. And so And I've talked with David a little bit. I don't really know what the numbers are, but it feels like we are picking up in the number of events. It feels like
Yeah.
just driving downtown on the course of weekends that there's a lot more cars down there than there have been in the past. And I have no idea what the new economic impact number is going to be, but I'm looking forward to seeing them. Do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, well, yeah, we get those, and we do need to share those. But
Right.
yeah, there is a positive, beneficial
Sure.
economic impact, and it's substantial. So
Good.
he's doing well with that. He's at the event center had been focusing on sports activities,
Right.
volleyball, basketball, cheerleading, pickleball. We're
Right.
talking about things like that, but he's experimenting now, beginning to experiment with concerts.
Okay.
That facility is an adaptable facility. It's not just a sports complex type facility. And so we've had some concerts and have had successful events and turnouts for those. It's a different clientele
Sure, of
from
course.
sports.
Of course.
So I think if we can if he or they can do more promotion of that type of activity, then it can be even more. It could improve our revenue position even better than it is. The event center does have there's a linkage between the event center and trash collection.
Right.
Because the event center was a major investment for the city, and it did take a lot of attention and management attention, and also imposed a pretty significant debt on the city. And so that has impacted our ability to replace equipment,
Right.
Fire engines, for example, garbage trucks, major big backhoes for storm water work and things like that. And so we've been suffering this past couple of years, in particular with garbage collection. Lack of trucks that were reliable trucks, that is. So, and the pandemic had affected us in terms of recruitment of employees. And so we've been shorthanded and unreliable equipment. Those two things, very difficult combination.
Right.
And so it's been very difficult just to get the garbage collected. But we've been rebuilding that. We're staffed back up again. It's taken a while to do that. We had pay plan changes that the city council approved back that were effective in July. And so that's helped us a lot. So we're staffed back up, and we've been buying trucks as we can. We bought a couple of used trucks that are in better condition than our existing fleet. So we've got those.
Right.
Had bought a rear loader that the town of Jamesville had ordered, had decided they wanted to switch after the truck had been built for them, switch to a one-arm bandit type truck.
Okay, sure.
And so the company knew that we were in desperate need of a rear loading truck, and so we ended up acquiring that. It's like a gift to us in a way. It came to us, and then we were able to get some of those grab-alls, a couple of new grab-alls, sooner than what we had originally planned. So we've been building the fleet, and so I think and last week we had a perfect week in garbage collection. We collected garbage and recyclables and containerized waste all on the days that we say we're going to collect.
Whoop, whoop. That's a celebration right there, right? Raise the roof.
I was struggling again this week, but it was celebration time last week.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people listening are saying, well, gosh, how can that happen? I mean, how stupid is that? But I like to remind folks that, pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, the supply chain was working exactly like you would expect it to. So you didn't have to wait, order something 3, 4, 5 years in advance. You could pretty much go to the store and get whatever you needed, within reason. And certainly there was a used equipment out there if you had to put something into service. But the pandemic really did slow down the supply chains. It really did, slow down the ability to be able to get those resources. So we were a little bit stretched. Maybe we're making a decision. Okay, let's put a little bit of bubble gum and bale wire on that one. I think maybe we can get a year out of it, knowing full well that if we have to, we can make it happen right away. And those conditions have just changed, and it just delay, deferral, left us in an environment where the supply chain was just kind of screwed up. And so it's not as easy to just snap your fingers, write a check, and make it happen. I mean, this is one of those things that money almost won't fix it
That's right.
because you can't find it.
You can't find it. Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
people, they're hard to find.
Right. Yeah. Believe it or not,
Right.
we've got jobs. Everybody's looking for people. Jobs. Everybody's hiring and jobs people wanted, and been difficult to fill these positions. But yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I would have thought the rapture had come because people are so scarce, except that my mother's still alive and with us. And so I know that she would have been on that journey. I'm not sure that I would have been. I think I would, but nonetheless,
Maybe she'll get you in there.
That's right. That's all right. That's right. So, but anyway, so that's one of the challenges that we're looking at. What are the other items that you've really kind of had to work through, or we're working through, and maybe a status on that?
Yeah, well, the pay plan issue was a major challenge. That had been our pay had fallen out of line, and
Right.
there had been a study that had been done. Now it was 3 years old. We finally got that resurrected and fixed up, and then got that in front of the city council. Finally, it was a huge effort to do that, and council approved that. And as soon as we got that done, we turned right around and started another pay study. So we have that going on now. The recruitment and retention of our employees has been a major challenge. We are in a major way shorthanded in the police department, and it's not just us, it's police departments all around the country that are, recruiting and having challenges because of the nature of that work and the things that have been happening in the police world, in recent years. So that's been a challenge. We're shorthanded now in the street division. We're just getting ready to open up for the collection of loose leaf collection with the fall, and we're down 17 employees in the street division right now. So that's that you would think that should be relatively easy to fill, but we're out there recruiting and trying to find people who will work. It's work out in the streets. In the fall, it's picking up leaves. In the other times of the year, it's working in storm drainage, cleaning ditches, and all of that. It's physical labor, but it's all outdoor work.
So everybody's listening that wants a job or knows somebody, by all means, call, go to the website, call. I'm sure you'll put your personal cell number up if folks will call it, just to apply. So anyway, a little bit of kidding there, but
we were short. We had 5 crews in the electric division that are there to maintain the electric distribution system. And we had gone down to 2 crews. People had been leaving, going on to work mainly for the investor-owned utilities like Duke Power and Dominion Electric and others. And so we've had to make some changes there to hire contract crews to come in and supplement our crews so that during bad weather, hurricane weather scenes and things like we would have the. But that's a struggle. That's been a struggle. Keeping our positions filled so that we can provide the services that we're supposed to provide. The city council had approved, I think it was 6 positions for litter collection. And remember at the last city council meeting, we had a lady come up and say, can you get going on picking up litter? And so we have the equipment to do that, but we don't have the manpower to do that.
Right.
And so that's a service we're ready to provide. But again, we got to recruit those people to get out there and pick up litter. It's things like it's the recruitment of employees, and then holding on to the employees that we have.
We call that here keeping the keepers, recruiting the keepers, because oftentimes you don't pay attention to those that are in the trenches with you because you're always trying to find new.
Yeah.
But that's the core. If you lose that, you really are in trouble.
Right.
So what's your perception of the challenges of recruitment? I'm experiencing it too. I know that our pay scales are competitive. I've seen those pay studies. I know that, and look, the retirement's good. I mean, we have a nice package, so it's not necessarily compensation.
Right. It's not necessarily compensation. One area I'm working on it yesterday was in environmental services. What we had done years and years ago, and other cities do the same thing. They have what they call the incentive system for refuse collection, solid waste collection. And the way that works is we say to our employees in that division, that in that line of work, we'll pay you for 8 hours, but if you can get your job done within 8 hours, then you can go home when you got the job done. And so what that does is makes it so that our employees will hustle to work out.
Right.
So they're there at 6:30 in the morning. They get in the trucks at 7 o'clock, and they're out on the road at 7, and they're working the routes. What had happened a few years ago, and this is before I came back, is they put in a time clock system
Okay.
for employees, and so now everybody's on time clocks. You come in and punch in, and then you got to punch out. And so that system has become cumbersome for these employees in the Environmental Services Division. So the decision made yesterday is I'm going to pull that time clock system out of environmental services so that, and say to them, we're back on the incentive system. So you here at 6:30 in the morning, in the truck at 7 o'clock, and out you go. And when you're done, you're done.
Right.
And no clocking in. You don't have to clock out. It's 8 hours. We're paying you. We know we're paying you 8 hours.
Right.
So we just don't need all of that.
Well, really what it does is it distills it down almost to a per piece kind of item, or, I'm expecting the expectation for your efficiency and workload production will be X.
Yeah. So money is important, and supplying operational equipment that's reliable is
Right.
important. But also, what's important is honoring that time, so that many of our employees have a side activity, side job, so that in the case of these employees in that division, as soon as you get off, then you can get on to the other thing that you do. And that's how the city activity and then whatever else you have on the side, those two things are what provides the opportunity for employees in that area. That's what we do. Well, that's one thing. That's one thing you can do. That's
Right.
I had created a task force of city employees to look at. You tell me what things we can do. You employees, what things we can do to improve our retention and recruitment. And so yesterday got a fairly comprehensive list of ideas.
Okay.
Many of them I think we can do. There's some that I'm not sure I'd be able to recommend.
Right.
But there are ideas that I would never have. I'd have thought of some of them, but I would never have thought of the whole range of ideas that come. So I'll be digesting those with the help of the leadership team at the city, and then trying to develop those into recommendations. I think we'll be presenting to the city council. Some of them I think are easy to do, that have to do with things like sick leave and vacation leave for probationary employees.
So, we're in the process of, recruiting a new manager. What advice would you provide to that person if you'll even go down that road? But you're a guy who's been with the city, intimately knowledgeable about its operations. The history that you hold is invaluable. It certainly helps you to be able to understand how we got here, because, at the beginning, the decisions that were made that led to the current outcome. And that's very helpful when you know that history. So what advice do you give somebody who's brand spanking new, roll into town? And, I might be putting you on the spot here a little bit, but that's something I think that people will be interested in.
Well, if it's a new city manager who is coming in from wherever they're coming in from, one thing I think I'd say to them is this community is different in that it is two communities in one. It thinks of itself as if it's two communities. It's really one city. If you were flying, 10,000 feet or 20,000 feet over this place, and you look down, what you'd see is one community. But when you get down on the ground, you talk to the people, we often think of ourselves as two communities, an Edgecombe side community and a Nash side community. And so a challenge for whoever the person is to look for those ways, any things we can do to help our people realize that we are one people that share one place. It's called Rocky Mountain.
That's right.
And wherever you live, it's east side, west side, north side, wherever it is, we just, if we're going to survive as a community, we have to be working together, communicating together. And how do you do that? I don't know. I think our city and our city council needs to be thinking about trying to develop a vision for what we want this community to look like and be like in the next, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 15, whatever the outlook period might be. And that, I think, is something that can be done. We maybe think like, well, we can't do that even. We're not, but I think we can. We've done this before, and it can be done again. And it's time. It's been, I think, 20 years since the last effort, maybe a little longer than that, but anyway, some 20 years since the last effort to try to create this vision. So that, I'd say, that's one thing to do. Finances is another major challenge for any city, and so wherever you go, if you're coming in as a city manager here or there or wherever it is, finances is the thing that manager is going to go to first. And this city has been well managed financially for years and years, and it's because we have utilities, because we have electric and gas, and those are utilities that provide services, but they also provide a source of revenue that helps. It's because of those utilities that we have extra items like an art center and a theater and this, I think, superb recreational opportunities that we have in this community that are amenities that maybe other places that don't have those have. So so paying attention to the city's finances, and particularly to the utilities as enterprise funds,
Mhm.
and making sure that they function well and that the infrastructure is maintained, all of that would be a priority.
Okay, I get it. And we have a lot of assets in the community we don't talk about, right? The Greenway
Yeah,
that it
that's
stretches
right.
from basically Sunset or really City Lake all the way over to Stith Park. I mean, it's a beautiful trip, and it's a great, it meanders. You have the
Mhm.
river, we've got the mill, we've got the event center, we've got a lot of activities going on at the Arts Center, the Imperial Center,
Mhm.
and we don't really focus on that. We have focused a lot more on the vision. I'll agree with that. And I got to tell you, I don't know that I really fully understand that. I've lived in Edgecombe County for off and on through my life here. I've lived in Nash County off and on through my life, and I've not seen that division, although I have heard it referenced all of my life.
Mhm.
And I will say, having a railroad track dividing the city in the middle into different counties is a plot that I'm not sure even Stephen King could have come up with from a nightmarish,
Yeah,
trying to resolve it, but
yeah,
in terms of people's minds.
yeah.
Look, I want to thank you for coming. I appreciate all that you're doing here for the
Oh,
city.
thank you.
Anything we can do for you, just let us know. I tell you, I do appreciate your hard work and all that you are.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate what you do and what our city council does,
Great.
and it's been fun.
Yeah.
I like it. It's fun,
Well,
but I'm ready to
I
retire
was going to
again.
say, stay.
I enjoy the freedom of being retired. So
Right, choosing to do what you want to do in
that's
every
right.
given day. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.